Caitlin has the ability to make up to $500,000 just in WNBA wages this year. So, of course, they're just looking at a base which is collectively bargained. And actually, it's low because she's the #1 pick. She'll make a little more than that. But she also has millions and millions of dollars of endorsements. She's actually, because she declared to become pro, her endorsements are higher in dollar value. She has a global platform now, not just a U.S. platform. So she's going to do just fine, as will the top players in the league, as every league does. Also, there's...
Picture this. Alarms blaring, coffee spilling, spreadsheet screaming because the WNBA just woke up to its biggest plot twist ever. The commissioner reportedly stressed Nike laughing all the way to the bank. And Caitlin Clark casually rewriting the rulebook with a record-breaking ad that exposed a problem no one wanted to talk about. This isn't just basketball. It's branding chaos, money madness, and a glow-up nobody saw coming. Stay right here. This gets wild.
It's February. I sat across from Cathy and asked how she planned to address the officiating issues in our league. Her response was, well, only the losers complain about the refs. I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. And in that same conversation, she told me players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them.
Now, we all know Christmas morning 2025 was supposed to be the annual ceasefire where sports executives pretend they are normal people who sip cocoa and do not spend their free time rehearsing corporate talking points in a mirror. But the WNBA front office walked into the holiday with the kind of tension that makes wrapping paper feel like a hostile workplace memo.
These are all things that women supposedly hear from our supposedly patriarchal society. The whole ad is one long feminist trope. But the richest irony, I think, is that Caitlin Clark is in this commercial. Clark has actually been doubted, criticized, mocked, belittled, hated on. That's true in her case. Except men are not the ones doing that. All of the hate towards Caitlin Clark, literally all of it, is coming from other women, most of whom are playing the same sport. Her haters are the other women in her league.
The season had delivered the dream scenario in public because viewership surged and attention spiked. Yet, it also delivered the nightmare scenario behind the scenes because every week came with a fresh argument about physical play. Public comments that landed like bricks.
Cathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the league. Doggy, Peter, Monica, let me say for the record, you should resign. You need to resign. Period. Reason I say that, Doggy, is because when a player, any player, but especially one of that magnitude, attacks you publicly like that, that weak ass...
The plan for league leadership was simple because simple plans are the only ones that survive December. And the plan was to let the news cycle wander toward the NBA's Christmas slate, the NFL's late season chaos, or literally any topic that did not involve the internal politics of women's basketball.
Nike's finally going all in on Caitlin Clark, and it happens with a Christmas Day commercial drop. Really a fantastic ad all around, and speaks to the appeal of Clark, and speaks to, I think, the efforts that are going to be put into her from a marketing standpoint. Not to mention the importance of 2026, the season for her and the season for the WNBA, when you dial yourself back a second or pull yourself back from the immediacy of the ad and realize...
For a few hours, it almost worked, which probably felt like a victory in a year where silence became a luxury item, and then a notification dropped at the worst possible moment because the sports world was still half asleep and families were still pretending they liked each other. The notification did not come from the league, which would have at least been rude in a familiar way. And it did not come from a highlight account posting a mid-range jumper montage. The notification came from Nike, which is the brand equivalent of a spotlight that does not ask permission before it turns on. And the post was a short commercial starring Caitlin Clark that managed to do what most scandals fail to do because it did not just create conversation, it reordered the power structure. A sneaker and triggering executive panic sounds ridiculous until it becomes obvious that this was never about sneakers because sneakers are just rubber and marketing poetry. And this was about who gets to decide what the league is. For decades, the WNBA has operated with a very specific philosophy that sounds noble on paper and complicated in practice because it insists the league comes first. The collective is the shield, and no single player is supposed to become larger than the organization. The commissioner, Cathy Engelbert, has been tied to that league-first philosophy like it is a seatbelt. Because her job is not just to promote basketball, but to maintain a structure that keeps owners calm, players somewhat aligned, and sponsors confident that the product will not turn into a daily reality show. That logic works beautifully until the spotlight decides it likes one person more than the institution that installed the light fixtures.
But the ad drops and it says from anywhere is kind of the tagline. Nike puts it out today. Merry Christmas, everyone, by the way. And, it starts with someone speaking to Caitlin Clark as she's shooting outside. Young girl.
Hey, Caitlin, can you make it from there?
And that's kind of the theme. Can you make it from there, with the music playing underneath? And you'll see Caitlin back.
Caitlin Clark has been the perfect storm for the system because she arrived with a built-in audience that did not ask to be introduced to the WNBA's traditions and internal hierarchies. She arrived with a style of play that translates immediately to casual fans because long-range shooting is the universal language of modern basketball. And she arrived with corporate backing that treats her like a once-in-a-generation marketing asset rather than a rookie learning the professional game. The league can preach collective identity all at once, but collective identity gets very quiet when an individual is producing numbers that overwhelm everything else in the room. The commissioner has tried to position this era as a moment for leadership and growth, which is what executives say when they are standing near a fire, but want everyone to focus on the future. She has also tried to redirect attention toward the ecosystem because ecosystems are safe words in the sports business and they sound like something you can manage with a spreadsheet and a few panels at a conference. The problem is that ecosystems do not stay balanced when one creature becomes a meteor. Nike's commercial landed like a meteor because it was not shot like a standard sports ad where an athlete runs through fog, stares into the distance, and says something vague about hard work.
Nike just released a brand new commercial featuring Caitlin Clark and her new Kobe shoe that she released today. And I saw this commercial yesterday on social media. I thought it was so cool. There's a shot when she's in the locker room and she opens her eye and it turns into what looks like a snake eye, but when you zoom in, it's actually the Kobe logo in her eye. And as you know, Kobe's nickname was the Black Mamba. I just felt like across the board, this commercial was a 10 for 10. And a lot of people have been getting on Nike because they don't feel like they have been promoting.
This thing looked like a mini blockbuster with glossy production, dramatic atmosphere, and celebrity cameos that screamed mainstream culture rather than niche sports marketing. The overall effect was not subtle because subtlety is not Nike's love language. And the message was that Caitlin Clark is not merely a WNBA player who happens to have a shoe deal. The message was that she is the event and the league is the venue. That is where the panic starts because a commissioner can handle criticism. She can handle debates about officiating, and she can even handle awkward public relations moments that require carefully arranged apologies. What becomes harder to handle is an external partner effectively announcing that it does not need the league's permission, the league's branding, or the league's collective identity to make money off the league's biggest draw. When the ad hit, it reportedly set off immediate internal scrambling because executives do not like surprises unless they are bonus checks. Phone calls reportedly started flying around like it was the trade deadline, which is a deeply festive way to spend Christmas if you hate peace. The issue was not that the ad existed because the league has always wanted stars to be visible. And the issue was not that Clark was featured because the league also needs her to be visible. The issue was the way it was done because it positioned her as something operating above and beyond the league itself.
Caitlin Clark may not have played in tonight's game, but the injured Fever star still on everyone's mind as Nike celebrated its newest signature athlete.
In such an incredible way, too. CBS Sports' Scarlett O'Hara went to the pregame party, which was decked out, and her new logo, which you see right behind Bob, officially unveiled today.
She might not have been on the court lately, but her name is plastered everywhere, so fans always remember Caitlin was here. Paired with Nike's famous swoosh.
The WNBA branding was barely present, which is the marketing equivalent of being invited to a party and then being told to stand behind the curtain while someone else takes credit for hosting. The visuals were locked on Clark, and the vibe was personal mythology rather than league celebration. Snow, isolation, impossible-looking range, and famous faces standing around like witnesses to greatness, all combined into a narrative that felt bigger than any team, bigger than any season, and definitely bigger than a commissioner trying to sell the idea that the league is the central character. A league-first model depends on shared buy-in because it needs players to believe the institution is the ladder and not a cage. It needs sponsors to believe the league is the key to access rather than a logo you put in the corner. It needs fans to believe the league's story matters beyond any individual. Nike's commercial basically said that the latter can be skipped, the cage has a door, and the logo is optional. That alone would have been enough to make executives sweat through their holiday sweaters, but the timing made it feel like a tactical maneuver rather than a random drop. Around the same time, the new 3-on-3 venture, Unrivaled, was rolling toward its debut, and it was being positioned as a meaningful answer to the WNBA off-season problem. It was marketed as player-driven, equity-focused, and designed to keep top talent in the United States instead of watching stars spend the winter overseas. The commissioner publicly supported it because publicly supporting player empowerment is the kind of thing that looks good in interviews and helps maintain the appearance of unity.
Commercial, stirring up some buzz, giving us a potential release date, a time frame for when her shoe's going to come out, her signature collection already slowly starting to trickle out. I got my wife, a couple months ago when I went to Arizona, I got her the gray Caitlin Clark hoodie and the gray Caitlin Clark sweatpants, and now for Christmas I got her the black Caitlin Clark hoodie and the black Caitlin Clark sweatpants, the same exact set.
Behind the scenes, there was reportedly one major focus that was treated like a missing puzzle piece because the project wanted Caitlin Clark involved. When you have a new league trying to launch, you want the biggest magnet possible. And Clark has been that magnet. Reports surfaced that she was offered a huge amount of money for a short commitment, which is the sports business version of leaving a bag of cash on someone's porch and hoping they develop an emotional attachment to it. Clark reportedly declined, which is an interesting flex in a world where athletes are constantly reminded to secure the bag because she chose rest and a quieter off-season instead of being the face of another product. Within a short window, the ads numbers reportedly dwarfed the combined push for Unrivaled's launch content, which is the business equivalent of showing up to a grand opening with balloons and banners and then watching a fireworks show go off across the street sponsored by one person. The public lesson was brutally simple because the market does not do diplomacy. Caitlin Clark did not need Unrivaled to remain the center of attention, while Unrivaled absolutely benefited from her presence. And the same imbalance applies to the WNBA's current reality. The league wants to present itself as the primary platform, but the attention economy is behaving like Clark is the platform and everyone else is renting space.
Let's get back to Nike though. I gotta ask some questions because I'm such a huge sneaker fan. You said that you're wearing the new kicks coming up this season.
Yeah.
I honestly, for everyone that doesn't know like the process that goes into like making the sneakers, like how long in advance has it been, or like when does it all start? Do they come to you with a shoe, a bunch of shoes? Do you kind of get to tweak them here and there? How is that process?
Yeah, I think it's honestly been like probably one of the coolest things.
This is where the commissioner's problem turns from inconvenient to existential. Because managing a league is one kind of job, but managing the league's relationship to a star who has outgrown the institution's control is another kind entirely. The league can set rules, negotiate agreements, and craft messaging. But it cannot negotiate with reality when reality is measured in clicks, views, and brand dollars. That creates an unavoidable contrast with the league's salary structure because the average viewer can do the math without needing an MBA. When a rookie is featured in an ad that looks more expensive than the broadcast presentation of a regular season game, it becomes difficult to keep selling the idea that the league is operating at the same financial altitude as the rest of the sports world. The league pays Clark a rookie salary that in the grand scheme of sports money does not even begin to match what her endorsements can generate. Meanwhile, Nike and other sponsors can make her look like a global superstar with a budget that the league itself cannot casually replicate. That gap makes the WNBA look undercapitalized, not because the basketball is not good, but because the money surrounding the basketball is flowing around the league rather than through it.